Your Honour, may I please check that you've had a copy of the pre-sentence report and my client's antecedents? I'm grateful, Your Honour. Your Honour, I intend to address firstly the particulars of the offence, having considered the relevant provisions of the sentencing guidelines, and then move to the personal circumstances of Mr. Harris, which I feel the court should be aware of. Mr. Harris fully understands the seriousness of this offence, and that he is likely to be looking at a custodial sentence. My primary submission, however, will be that the court follow the recommendation of the pre-sentence report, and for this situation, a custodial sentence is not appropriate. Mr. Harris has pleaded guilty to this offence, albeit at the last opportunity before trial, but nonetheless I invite the court to give credit to this guilty plea in an amount that the court sees fit, and it is submitted that a 10% reduction would be appropriate. Mr. Harris has expressed that he is sorry that he did not plead guilty at an earlier opportunity. Mr. Harris accepts the prosecution case of what happens and admits that he must have handled the wallet at some point, but he states that he ran away after the incident and did not take any of the money. It is submitted that this offence falls within the lowest category of the sentencing guidelines, giving the lower level of harm and lower level of culpability. The applicable range, therefore, is a high-level community order to 3 years in custody, with a starting point of 1 year's custody. Mr. Harris played a minor role within this offence. It was a low-value offence and a street robbery. It did not involve the use of any weapons, and Mr. Harris merely took on an ancillary role with the force that was used against Mr. Blake. Mr. Harris states that at the time he was under the influence and, to use his words, he was out of it, and he was merely going along with the commission of the offence, which was led by the other two. Your Honour will no doubt be concerned that Mr. Harris has a lengthy antecedent history, and his two most recent of convictions were for 3 dwelling house burglaries. However, Mr. Harris does attribute all of his criminality for his struggle with substance misuse, and he accepts that this is something which is significant and a significant struggle within his life. Mr. Harris has shown a great deal of remorse. Referring to the observations of Mr. Donald Taylor of the Probation Service who prepared the pre-sentence report, Mr. Harris appears to have begun to take responsibility for his own actions and expresses remorse to the previous behaviour, in particular to the behaviour towards Mr. Blake, the victim in this matter. Your Honour, Mr. Harris is only 19 years old. He does not have any qualifications and he is unemployed. He is of no fixed abode, although since being bailed, he has been residing at his mother's address, but he sleeps rough on the streets. The development of his early life, which led him to the position that he finds himself in today, is something that the court will be all too familiar with. At the age of 14, he was expelled from school and did not return to education. His chaotic lifestyle and substance misuse has prevented him from engaging in society. May I invite Your Honour to paragraph 3.6 of the pre-sentence report, where it describes Mr. Harris's early history, in that he was a subject of physical neglect from his own parents, owing to their own alcohol dependency, and that from the age of 12 to 16 he was in local authority care. He has been staying recently, however, with his mother, and he has formed a good relationship with her partner. The partner has encouraged him to undertake voluntary work at the Ground Force project in Bristol, and he states he has gained a sense of fulfilment through this voluntary work. Whilst Your Honour will note from the pre-sentence report that Mr. Harris has had difficulty in complying with programmes aimed at tackling his substance misuse, Mr. Harris has, however, presented positively in that since being arrested for this offence, he has abstained from substance misuse, and if it can draw Your Honour's attention to paragraph 3.9 of the pre-sentence report, he states he has now been free from both drugs and alcohol for over 4 months, which he claims is the longest period he's been clean and his longest period of sobriety. Mr. Harris has further had an offer to recommence education at Hanham College, where he intends to complete his GCSEs, alongside undertaking some part-time work. Mr. Harris is aware that Your Honour may be considering a custodial sentence, but having regard to his personal circumstances, and especially to his age, I submit to Your Honour that a custodial sentence is not what the court should follow. He presents no immediate risk to the public and has showed a significant change in his attitude as he appears motivated to reintegrate into normal society. In light of the mitigation that I put forward to today, I invite Your Honour to give serious consideration to passing a high-level community order with the requirement to follow a rehabilitation activity and to undertake some unpaid work, and approximately 200 hours has been recommended by the probation service, and any appropriate reduction to be given for the guilty plea. Should Your Honour find that the seriousness of this offence and my client's antecedents means that a custodial sentence must be imposed, I invite Your Honour to suspend the custodial sentence and alongside the imposition of the community order to give Mr. Harris this final opportunity to turn his life around, which he seems so motivated to do. I ask the court to consider that Mr. Harris has indeed shown a motivation, and with the assistance of the probation service, turning his life around is certainly achievable. Your Honour, this concludes my submissions unless I can be of any further assistance to the court.